All right, you guys. Hey, it is me, Lanisha Porter. If you are new to my channel, thank you. It's always so funny saying that. I'm sorry. Okay. Whoever thought that when I grew up, I would be saying those words.
Your love is rated X. That means you're extraordinary.
Okay. Take two. All right. What's up, you guys? I'm Lanisha, author, blogger, person who does things, and I am gonna do this video. So about a month ago, I requested for you all to send me questions that you guys have. Sometimes people slide in my DMs, my inbox, and they always have really interesting questions for me. And so I thought, hey, why not update my channel? Those who have chosen to lock in with my content, and they might have some questions about who I am as a person, why not update them, right, if they've been following me? So this video will be me doing a question and answer, an answer video to your questions. So I was not able to get clearance from everyone to like show their profiles. Some people wanted to remain anonymous. So I'm not for sure not if I'll put up the profiles that did, because I just want to make it consistent. So whatever. All right, I'm just gonna jump right into it. As you guys know, this will be a variant from another video that I did that captures my travels in Dubai. And the day of my photo shoot, I went down to the Burj Plaza and we got the Burj Khalifa in the back. And so I'm still in the same dress, the same costume that I had during my photo shoot. So I'm just kind of here in the hotel about to answer these questions. So let's jump into it. I'm not sure if I will release this video first or the next video or the other video, so who knows. Let's jump right into the questions. Okay, the first question is, do you live in NY or KY? Do I live in New York or Kentucky? I went to school in New York, but I do not live there. I don't think that I will ever live in New York. It's just not my speed. It's a wonderful place to visit, but there are just some personal luxuries that I prefer in my lifestyle that would not be available or convenient in New York. So no, I do not live in New York. I have lots of friends and family there though. Okay, next question. One of my favorite questions that I often get asked a lot is, how did you get into mentoring? If you've been following me, you know that I've been able to serve in multiple capacities of being a mentor, and doors after doors have just continued to be open for me. And I would really say the main way I got into mentoring is I really just jumped right into it. I jumped into it in terms of, I saw something that I needed growing up, and I wanted to go back and create a supply for that, for those who would also be in need of the thing that I was in need of growing up. So I saw something that needed to exist, and I created it. And I'm still not even where I want to be in terms of my mentoring aspirations. One day I want to open up my own center to serve an at-risk population. But okay, the first thing that I can say is I got involved in, you guys hear that wind? Or is that the bus? I can't tell. Okay, so yes, these blackout curtains are amazing. Okay, let me not get distracted. Yes, my first ever mentoring venture, I actually got a sponsorship. I collaborated with a local community center, and I just said, hey, I don't have no monies, but I have great vision. I have people who will be willing to donate, and can I use your space? And luckily they agreed to it. They were in accordance with my vision. I had one of my DJ friends come in and donate 2 hours of their time. I got vendors and sponsors who sponsored food and prizes and cakes. And what did we do? I had some local performers come in, and I think I actually have a clip that I'll insert here.
I don't really get it, why they hating on me, so they are. I wish they admitted they keep faking on me, I'ma die.
And that was back in 2014. That was my first ever me testing out, throwing the spaghetti up against the wall and saying like, what is gonna stick? I learned a lot about event planning, and I learned a lot about crafting my vision to be even more detailed to serve whatever goal that I have in mind. But the name of that event was Discovering Destiny, getting your passport, I think my idea was getting your passport to education. And what it was like a back to school pep rally encouragement situation. So I had flyers made, I paid with out of my own pocket, and I think the flyers like $75. And I remember canvassing my neighborhood and just passing out a flyer to every single youth. Not many people showed up. I don't know, maybe we had about 20 people show up, but that is really how I got into mentoring from there. Yeah, and then I ended up releasing my book. My book opened up doors for me. People would ask me to come and speak to their youth organizations. And so that's, I feel like whenever people tell their stories, it's never a cookie cutter answer, because the real answer is you throw yourself into it and you don't really know what path is going to work for you, but you just try. You listen to your intuition. You have to feel in your spirit what you're sensitive to. Like, are you sensitive to this topic within mentorship? What audience are you looking to speak to? What is your story? Like, when you go before people, how are you going to be connecting with them? What part of your story is going to be relatable? What part of your story are you really willing to open up, to broadcast, and to expose, to connect with people? And so you're going to be learning a lot as you go. And so when people ask me like, how did you get into mentorship? It's never for me one straight answer. It's always a new chance for me to reflect and say like, oh, well, this door opened for me, but also while this door was opening for me, I met people on this path who helped me open this door, and I learned this about myself. So if I had to summarize it down, I would say how I got into mentorship: saw a problem, created a supply for it, and I used my resources. I networked across. I used what I had until I was able to secure more. And from there, history will be whatever it's going to be. Your name will get recommended. Your name will go into certain rooms before you even get to walk in them. And then that will open up doors for you. So you really start to work your chain of connection. So I hope that helps. All right, next question. How did you get the courage to travel solo? How did you get the courage to travel solo? How did I get the courage to travel solo? I think you just get tired of hearing no. And I think you just get tired of putting your plans on the shelf. And there comes a certain point where you're just like, man, if life is to be lived, then I should live it, despite, who's going to be along with me for the ride. And, I think depending on where you are in your social group, depending on where you are in your life and what your peers are up to, what their lives and responsibilities and demands look like, it can be really hard to get on one accord about something, especially when people are still navigating their finances and they're trying to find some footing. So, in college, we would always make plans like, oh, we should go here for spring break. We should go here for spring break. And, there are those college students who just charge it to the credit card and say like, what's the word I'm looking for? Carpe diem, like get up and live and let life carry you wherever it may. But then there are those who's just like, oh, I really don't have it. And I kind of was that person. I think my first solo trip was in college, actually. And I definitely wanted people to go with me, but people didn't have the money to go with me. So I just kind of went by myself. I remember I charged it to my credit card and I took myself to Cancun, and it was such a great experience. Especially, let me just say, it would be irresponsible of me to ever get on a platform and say, just go. No, there's a lot of research that goes into traveling. There's a lot of preparation that goes into traveling. There is a lot that goes into preparing. And you have to be even more responsible to have 4 eyes around you at all times, right? So it's a lot. But what I will say is, while we live in a world that does present its fair share of evilness and its fair share of tragedies, I do not think it should be forgotten that we live in a world where there are good people, there are new experiences to be embraced, and there is life around the world. I'll say that. And for me, when you live in one space of the world, one corner of the world, it is easy to be infiltrated with everyone's opinions and echoes of what the world is like that comes from a place of theory. So you can easily have your opinions colored to think certain ways about places in the world. But there is nothing like getting out there and seeing the world for yourself, and, maybe even unveiling some ignorance that you had, and then being able to refill that glass with like real and true knowledge from the depth of experience. And for me, that's why traveling has been important, because once I survived my first solo trip, I was like, man, how people say Mexico is, like, I didn't experience this part of that. And then when I was able to go other places in the world, I was able to say, like, people like to say that traveling is like super dangerous, but you go to some places in the world and it's absurd of them. It's absurd that there are things such as school shootings, or there are things such as like on street killings. So for me, how did I get the courage to travel solo? I'm rambling. I got the courage to travel solo because I got tired of waiting on people to live my life. And through a lot of research and through the experiences, gleaning information from the experiences of people who have traveled the world, it was like that constant push, like, yes, be crowful, but like, go see the world for yourself. And being able to travel, I'm a better person because of it. I'm smarter because of it. I'm more compassionate because of it. And I really think at the end of my life, I will be a more fulfilled person because I've been able to see the world in some, and not just a tiny corner of it. So yeah, I just got the courage to go through I guess it came more natural. There are moments, of course, when you're nervous, or there are moments where you feel awkward, or of course, I would be less than human to say that those type of feelings evade me, but I always can just pull from my file cabinet and reference different experiences and say, like, remember when you were nervous to try this new thing, and remember how wonderful it was once you got out of your comfort zone. And now, before you were comfortable being in that zone, that seemed like territory you could never chart. But now that you have charted this territory, everything else beyond this can be yours to take too. And so for me, that also translates into my confidence to try new things. Like even in my career, like, do you want to make this career switch? Remember, there was once upon a time where you wouldn't travel that far because you were so nervous. But now you traveled that far and the rest of the world is also yours to take. Well, that also translates over into different endeavors in my life, you know, like, remember when you were nervous to do this thing, but then you did it, and now you have that under your wing, you have that under your belt. What else can you do? All right, so yeah. Next question. I hope that I'm doing good. How do you stay so smart and fly? Oh, you are so sweet. I don't know if that's a real question, but I want to say thank you. Very sweet. I cannot take credit. Whatever you see in me, I have to say it's by the grace of God. All right. What do you look for in a guy? Let me hydrate. What do I look for in a guy? Okay. For me and a guy, what I look for in a suitor, simple. Someone who loves God dearly, someone who is devoted to God as the head of his life, first and foremost, above all things, because if he loves God dearly and he follows kingdom standards, then he will, without a doubt, love me with full sincerity, full devotion as well. So a man who loves God, a man who leads by a kingdom standard, that's important to me. Number two, a man who excels in personal excellence. So really excellence in both private and public. And when I say that to people, they're like, what does that even mean? What does that mean? Well, what it really means is I just want a man who does good things. He does good things because that's who he is, not because he wants a reward forward, not because of any ulterior motives. I just want a man who is, you know, good in the public and then also just as good in private. I don't have to worry about how he's making me look, how he's reflecting on me, what he's doing in private, what he's doing, you know, when I'm not around. I don't want to have a full-time job of micromanaging what is he doing, or, you know, trying to deal with his indecencies. I don't want that. So a man who is excellent personally, both in private and public, a man who is excellent. And then three, a man who has his own, a man who is ambitious, a man who can match whatever I bring to the table. So, you know, for instance, if I have aspirations of like giving back to the community, like I want a man who also has his own aspirations of giving back in some form or fashion. I want a man who has a motivation to push forward generational standard. Like, so for me, I know that when I get a partner, there are definitely some standards I want to raise. I want to move them up. And those are certain things that you just have to be in agreement with someone else to be a real force to move that standard up, to move that notch up, take it up a notch. And so I just want a man who's like-minded in that aspect with his ambition. So a man who will help me with financial literacy, a man who has interest and devotion to like real estate investment, a man who, a man who cares about education and literacy inside the home, a man who cares about family development and establishing a strong family unit, because, you know, your family is the greatest contribution that you can make to society. So again, I know that is a lot, but if I had to break it down to three things: a man who loves God, a man who loves me dearly, and a man who is excellent and has ambition. Three things I look for. Top three. Okay, last three questions. How do you stay motivated? How do you stay motivated? Well, I think for me, my childhood experience naturally instilled an intrinsic motivation. So there are some things that I lived through as a youth where I just said, this is etched into my psyche enough where like, I know I have to overcome and surpass this. Like I want my standard of living that I'm exposed to be completely different. And so I think that is part of the question. That is part of the answer to that question. But I also think that you just set goals. You set goals and you see a vision for yourself. And every day you just try to live in accordance to that vision or getting a piece of the puzzle that will complete that vision, right? So I did my dream board in 2020. And when I sat down and I did my dream board, it was a very intimate experience. It was so intimate that I didn't even invite anybody over to do a vision board party with me. I remember it was a very intimate, private experience. And why it was that way is because I think that dreams and visions within themselves, I think those are from God. They are God inspired. And I think that visions are simply previews of the things that God has planned for you in your life. And so as I was reflecting on the visions that are tucked away deep in my heart, that I believe that God has given me, the things that I aspire to, from motherhood to my career endeavors to the type of marriage I want to have, just the type of person I want to be. When I sat down and I took all those things from within and I projected them on paper, I mean, it was a trifold poster board. It was big, very big. And when I tell you I was able to fill it up. I wrote down, I made it personal. I went through the neighborhoods that I wanted to live in, took pictures, and I would put the zip code and I would pray over it. And it's like, God, I don't know when it's gonna happen. I don't know how it's gonna happen. But this is what I see for my life, God. And yeah, it was just very personal. But all that to say is I did a vision board to the extent that I don't need to do another vision board ever again, I don't think. And so I wrote down every single thing that I aspire toward. And that to me is my puzzle. That vision board that I did in 2020 is representative of my grand scheme puzzle. That is not going to happen overnight. Me completing anything on that vision board is never going to happen overnight. But what is possible is every single day of my life, I can go out and I can secure one piece of that puzzle that, as it amounts over the years, my picture will start to fill out, and it will start to become realized before my life, throughout the days, throughout the months, throughout the years, throughout the decades, right? Decades leading up to my destiny. And so for me, that's how I stay motivated. There are some days that are heavier than others. There are some days where I'm like, this is a hard vision to carry. How am I supposed to complete all of these things? But that's the thing. It's one day at a time, brick by brick, layer by layer, legacy be built. That's why I established the brand Legacy Be Built, because truly that's what legacy is all about. Brick by brick, the mortar, that's the motivation you need to like keep it all together. And for me, my mortar is God. It's just keeping myself in the word. It's encouraging myself through the word of God. It's remembering his promises. It is remembering that, God is faithful. God is true. He is the same today as he was yesterday. So needless to say, how do I stay motivated? I keep my vision before me. That's simply it. I keep my vision before me, and I just trust that even a hard day is still as valuable to the destiny, to the journey, because you're learning something. You are you are being molded with a depth of experience that is going to be a reference point at some point in your journey to go back to and say, like, remember where I was so low in this valley, and look at this mountain peak that God has been able to bring me to and bring me through. So how do I stay motivated? Keep the vision before you. Right? Proverbs tell us that those without vision shall perish. So you want to have a vision. All right. How are you so perfect? I am not perfect. I am not perfect at all. And if you think I am, please let me be the first to assure you that I am very less than perfect. I try my best to do my best, but at the end of the day, I'm superhuman. I mess up. I don't always get it right, but I learn. And yeah, I don't want to be on anyone's pedestal. If I'm on anyone's pedestal, let me be the first to knock myself off. I will voluntarily knock myself off. I'm not perfect at all. All right, what do you do for a living? What do I do for a living? Okay, well, I think the simple question is I motivate people, I inspire people, but I also do a lot of contract work. And I just try to monetize myself in all the ways that feel right to me. I try to make monetary avenues of my passions. So yeah, I've had some experiences this past year that have, while I always aim to be transparent, I realize that I cannot always be vulnerable because there are with a certain level of exposure comes a certain level of security that's needed. So I can't explicitly name the places that, you know, I partner with, I work for, because people are crazy in this world. And I've definitely had some experiences that have shown me that people listen, people watch, and people, yeah. So there is a certain breach of privacy I will not make. I will not open myself up to. But yeah, that is what I will say is I like to monetize the things that I'm good at. But yes, I hope that this video has been able to tell you a little bit more about myself. If you haven't already, please check out my latest blog post. My blog post, usually whenever I take a trip internationally, it is a great time for me to wind down and to reflect and just be super introspective. And I always like to write pieces that really have a timestamp of my age on there. And for me, that is a way to go back and chronicle, like, okay, at 24, how was I thinking? What was I going through? Okay, at 25, what was happening? Okay, at 26, what was happening for me? And so that is what this piece is about. It is a chronicle to life for me at 26. And even in that, I kind of tell you guys about the experience that showed me, like, okay, even when you are on certain platforms, you can't let your guard down how you used to. You have to be careful about naming things explicitly because, yeah, I had my first interaction with a real life stalker who tried to harass me through terroristic threatening. And so, of course, as you can imagine, that was like a scary experience, but I believe in the power of God. I believe in his protection. I believe that I have his hedge of protection around me at all times. And so we will not give in to fear. We will not give in to the enemy. We know that the enemy comes to only steal, kill, and destroy. And so you cannot have my joy, devil. You cannot. I'm going to keep living my life and living my life aloud and giving God the glory from the blessings that he has allowed me to have in this life. How you like those apples? All right, thank you guys so much for sitting through this video. Nonetheless, I hope that you have learned things about me. I hope that, I hope that I answered your questions. I don't know what I'm about to do, but I'm definitely about to get comfy, chill out. And thank you guys so much for watching. Please be sure to subscribe, to like, comment. Let me know if this helped you at all, right? All right, I'll talk to you guys soon. Love you guys.